Howdy, watching friends. We're going to be doing a little bit of a discussion of the 14.10. Got a lot of one around meta at the moment here with Loescher, Memo, and Quinn. To have that discussion, we're going to start off by talking through some of these initial questions which I pull out my brain. Then we'll be going to look over the meta in generally, which will be over on this tab here. Which you can see has got a lot of information there. And then we'll be revisiting these questions again at the tail end to see if we've changed our minds on anything. So, I guess, for the sake of not like running into each other, I'll kind of, because Lush, remember, you're going to be doing hopefully most of the talking, I'll assume that if I send out a question, generally it will be to you first, Lusher, and then to you, Memo, and then please discuss between yourselves. Because obviously, both you guys know much more than I do, so I'm here to learn from your brains. So first question, how would you each characterize the meta generally?
Okay, so I would say there are lots of different lines to play right now and lots of different playstyles, but your default playstyle will be either AD or AP tier 4, with AD mostly being Ashe. And I would categorize Duelist as their own thing. And then there are some reroll comps, but they are mostly closely tied to certain conditions. Most notably, I think right now we have the hero augments, which are, I think, all actually really strong. And some of them, like Garen, you can probably pick without even having Garens into one. Completely fine.
Yes, I think Frodo thinks so.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the hero arguments are super strong on this patch. And my feeling so far has been that Ashe is by far like the best default line. And then everything else is kinda like can contest that comp as well. Like they are similar in strength. And factors like Exalted always play a big part, I feel like, in the current meta, because like all the comps are so similar in strength. So I think Exalted lines will be very contested.
Yep.
And everything else is kind of locked behind certain conditions like augments or like specific items, maybe encounters or regions. And yeah.
Cool. I'm doing my best to write up as we go. If I misrepresent anything that either of you say, please do say, or I think you'll be able to change it yourself if you need to, but if you let me know, then I'll modify. Cool. I'm putting in each, I realized I could put in a little thing here to be like what you said at this point versus what you say later on. Oop, that did not work. Excuse me. Right, on to the second one. So what do you guys think are the biggest factors in someone winning currently?
Ooh. Well, it is a bit of luck, actually, because usually because with encounters, sometimes you just get stuff you really can't use. Because, for example, I will take Duelist as an example. And to win, you kind of need, like, you don't really use gold well, for example. So if at one point you just get a huge gold influx because of an encounter or maybe like pot of gold or something, and suddenly the people go 9, go 10 and upgrade legendaries on their board. They play the good units, and then you're just getting outscaled.
Yep.
So I think it's hard. It's kind of hard to plan for a win out right now, and yeah, you don't really see that many tier 3, 4 focused units either. At least I don't. So yeah, it's really hard to plan for a win out, and it's rather just okay. The stars aligned. Obviously, if you're good, you will the stars will align more often. But yeah, it's a bit hard.
What about
I
you,
agree.
Memo?
There's a lot of flippy situations in the game, I think, where like some players just benefit a lot more than others. Like, for example, whenever an item encounter comes and your comp really can't use those items. For example, the Heavenly comp is like a prime example for that. I think where you like feel bad whenever you get like extra components. Obviously, this goes way more beyond that specific case. Like, there's so many examples of that, and since it is so, like, playing for a win is locked behind like having good encounter luck and also finding the augments that you want and having like decent rolls and like a solid early mid game. So I think there's like a lot of factors where it's like you can get screwed on so many different places, and obviously, yeah, I think to play for a win like from the get go is something that's really really hard in this set or in this patch. And it's way harder than in previous sets. I feel like in set 9 or set 10, if you had like a certain playstyle or like a meta preference, you could play for like a way higher win chance than currently.
I think a good example of this is actually Tamkench Bard reroll. Because without any conditions, the comp just is not very good. Like, you wouldn't go for it, but then you go for it because you do start with an artifact in early. Let's say it's Artifact Anvil Region, and you get either Forbidden Idol for Kench or Wit's End for Bard, which is kind of like your indicator to go for that comp. And then the comp is quite good. You don't win, but it's still quite good. And then you get a treasure armory with a Radiant item, and you get like Radiant Rageblade, and then there is another artifact encounter later in the game, and suddenly your board is just Exodia.
Yeah. There's so many things like
yeah.
that. It's also like region and encounter synergies, like, or like, I don't know, like, for example, getting a Kha'Zix or Yorick encounter on the correct timers, like, can like make your board or like your game so much better. That I feel like, how do I say this? Like the encounters make it so that you have a lot more often moments in the game where you feel like you're just having a very, very like high roll moment or like a low roll moment.
Mm-hmm. I feel to a degree it rewards staying flexible because you can adapt to most situations. However, you can't stay flexible in every game, and that leads to if you commit early and you have bad encounter luck, that can feel really bad. But then you can also say it's a bit of a skill issue there because you do know, okay, we didn't have any encounter stage 2 with those, so they will come later. I should prepare for that. But that's a bit iffy. Like I myself haven't really found a decent way to properly plan around that. So yeah, but maybe there are people that can like just get an edge because they are just slightly better at being this extra tiny bit more flexible.
It's so hard to assess that, like when you see an encounter, like, or even two encounters, like happening later in the stage, like how to play around that. Because sometimes you will get rewarded for sacking, sometimes you will get rewarded for playing aggro. There's no like correct way of playing around that. I feel like it's just super flippy because the encounters can be anything, which makes it so that playing towards that doesn't feel good. You kind of have to flip it and hope for the best.
It's the classic. I will sack the stage for the carousel encounter for it to be Irelia.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's Irelia and everyone can move freely and you feel super bad about it.
So in that situation, it would still be correct to play for it because there's like 1 out of 9 outcomes that is negative. But you just low rolled.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that being one of the things when we were first talking about the set, the idea that or just sort of seeing people trying sort of to play for the possibility of a certain thing happening, and just like how wild that felt to me. Okay, cool. That's an interesting conversation there. Alright, on to the next question. What kind of mistakes do you see people consistently making, and why do you think that they make them?
Oh, I watched the Open Qualifier, so I've seen quite a bit of mistakes.
Cool.
But I mean, if I would review all my own VODs in that detail on stream or GSC games, people would also do similar mistakes. I think most commonly, some people are a bit too narrow in their approach. They are like, I will force Metacomp XYZ because I have for example, good units, good items, or whatever, but they kind of don't really care for the other indicators, I call it, for the comps, like the other circumstances that would allow them to have a successful game. Like I've seen people going for Ashe without even seeing a bow until I think they didn't have a bow until before the 3-5 carousel. And
Yeah, that's a classic.
yeah, and then I'm like, why are you angling this? Like you need the rage plate, or at least like you need like 2 bow items. Don't do this to yourself. You can just stay flex. So yeah, people commit for meta lines way too early because they think the comp is strong, but they don't really see the good alternatives you would have. As we said earlier, there are lots of very conditional compositions which you can pivot into, and it's hard to have all of this available, like in the back of your mind. But I feel like if you want to play at the highest level, you need to be able to do that consistently. Another example, rather than Ashe, would be Duelist, for example, which is a comp. It hates prismatic augments. You really want your gold augments; they're really good. You don't really want gold or items because you just want your power from your trade. So if there's anything in the game that gives you anything other than this, than these like combat power or support items or gold augments, like Duelist +1, then don't really bother with it. And people just go like hard force because they see keepers. They don't even have units, they don't have items, and then they just pick keepers and hard force, and because the augment is so good. Yeah, it's people are like, I see one good thing which fits the comp, and that I can make the rest work, and oftentimes it's not that easy.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of good stuff that Loescher said that I would have said as well. I think what's also big is in these tournaments you can, like, everyone knows how to like approximately play like the meta lines, I would say. But I feel like where a lot of people miss edges is in positioning. Like a lot of people are just overwhelmed with thinking in the future and what they want to play and what units they consider, that they don't really focus on the mechanical part of the game, where what's like where you need to like just scout and position like correctly. I feel like there's like a lot of outplay potential there. So units like Silas can jump behind like the enemy set, and then the enemy set will just ult the Silas in your own backline. There's like some stuff that you can do with positioning that can give you huge edges. In past sets, when I was better with that, I remember like the 3-cost Akshan that has like same focus like Caitlyn in the current set, where I would put like the Caitlyn in the middle and the enemy main tank would also stand in the middle, and my Caitlyn would just one-shot the enemy backline, or my Akshan rather. And I feel like there's like edges like that people don't really utilize because they're just overwhelmed. Like it's tournament day and they're like really focused on what they want to play and the units they're looking for.
I have a good example for that. It's not that relevant right now because of the meta, but in the Kaiser comp, oftentimes people have the Kaiser directly behind the Galio. And if your set ults the Galio while the Galio is in his taunt, the Galio won't move. But that means the set will still jump to the back, like he will dash through. He will do the dash, just won't take the Galio with him. So he lands in front of the Kaiser, and because he doesn't have any other target in range now, because, well, the Galio is still in the front line, the set will go into the Kaiser.
Yep.
That works. Yeah, that's you can do that quite consistently.
That's a really good example, actually. I've seen that quite often. There's some Udia stuff as well.
What's going on.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, man.
There's some Udia shenanigans you can do as well, or like Tiny but Deadly, that augment that gives you movement speed. Like sometimes your melee carries will just wrap around the enemy frontline directly to the backline, or like Tattoo of Horse. There's like a lot of like small niche stuff that people might know or like they heard of it, but they can't like do it in a tournament game, which I think is something that's a bit missing or like going under the radar a bit, where like people could get huge edges.
Also, one more thing that happens often to myself actually. people forget stuff because there's lots of small things that will say, "Oh, we'll do something later in the game," and you just don't mind. Like Blessing or Pot of Gold are examples, but also stuff like the Ash encounter. Sometimes you forget there's the Ash encounter going on, and you don't properly scout for your opponent.
Yeah. Or like the loot subscription stuff,
yeah.
where you can scout on like another board what the loot subscription is, and then pick your augment based on what the loot subscription payout is. So there's like a lot of small stuff that you need to be focus, like have high focus for. Or like even Champion Conference, like I see so many people mess up Champion Conference where they don't tailor their board for the like 4-cost or 5-cost they want. So like region stuff and counter stuff, there's like a lot of people messing up on that because you just need to be focused like throughout the entire game. And if you have like 6 games and every game goes like 30 minutes, it's very hard.
Okay, so that sounds like that's a kind of a theme that's emerging here for just to make this never mind. Yeah, there's a lot of edges that people could be getting with encounters, positioning, augments, portals and things that they might well. Do you think that's going to be, with the game being as volatile as it is, do you think with those being the things you can control, those kind of 5% differences are a bigger factor in whether or not you win?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all these players that are playing in these tournaments know the game at least a little bit, right? And TFT is still so much, I don't want to say luck-based, but there's some things that can happen for a player that's like a lot worse than another player, and there's nothing the better player can do about it. So taking every edge that you can is volatile. Like it's so big. It's the entire reason why we always see the same players over and over again at the top, because they know how to like squeeze out every little bit of the game that you can.
I really like that. All right, on to the next one. Oh, and please, especially Loescher, with you, particularly with you home being ill, do let me know if you need to take a break at any time.
No, all good, all good. I'm just chilling here.
All right.
As I said, I did nothing but sleep today, so I got this hour.
Okay, cool. Well, how did the I think we sort of covered a little bit of this already, but in case there's anything additional to say about how you felt like the forecast sort of somewhat reversion changed the game.
I think obviously it's hard to say in isolation, but with some other balance changes concerning trades as well, it moved kind of into from a spot where you would play around strong individual tier 4 units to more of trades. For example, I think in the Ash comp it's always correct, or well, pretty much always correct to play 4 snipers because the bonus is so good, rather than good units. Some units also really hated the HP change. Annie, for example, she used the HP really well, so she took a big hit thanks to that.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I didn't feel in isolation. I wouldn't say it felt insanely impactful. It's kind of hard to say because we always have to watch it in context.
I think a huge difference now is that the early forecast doesn't feel so oppressive anymore. Like when you hit in stage 2, like your Annie or your Kane, that would be a huge deal on the patch where the HP was increased. And now it's still very good, but it's not like a free win streak from there. Another thing that's what I noticed is people are way more willing to play like the 3-cost frontliners or the 2-cost frontliners. Like Amumu and Ilaoi are very contested now, I feel like, because they're just very good, and Vaughn also got slightly buffed. But I think the reason why we are seeing so much more of these 3-costs is also because the 4-costs got nerfed a little, right? It's not like they are unplayable, but now other stuff is also getting played, I feel like.
Yeah, I think a big part is Ilaoi actually being closer to a 4-cost than to a 3-cost in terms of power right now. And tier 4 tanks really aren't that great right now. Galio is probably your best tank in isolation, but the traits are so niche. You don't really fit Bruiser or Story Beaver normally onto your board. And units like Ilawi just have such insane traits that by default you just prefer that.
Nice. Yeah, I really like the particularly the stuff about the win streak things as well, because it's a nice thing to be able to pick up on and cast. All right. So next up, where are we with, in terms of, reroll, versus rolling at 8, going to 9, is it sort of a even spread of the kind of things, or are you seeing more of a tendency in a particular one of those three directions?
I think it's kind of like I said with the meta overall. Like your default is you go level 8, roll for your tier 4 units, upgrade them, and then go 9. But if you meet the conditions to go into reroll composition, you will roll that. But as I said, it's always a bit niche. Like I don't think there's a reroll comp that in isolation you can say is worth it to pursue.
Would agree. Also, we can put that in context, like what we talked before, right? If your default game plan is always level 8 or like pushing level, it's much easier to play around encounters because you can adjust way more. But if your like game plan is to reroll and you're like set on that game plan very early on, because you slam certain items or like you hold certain units, it's much harder to adjust to certain encounters. And since there is no reroll comp that's like really broken, like that's like a lot better than anything else, I think it's just not worth to commit into reroll often unless you are meeting certain conditions. So I agree with Loescher. I think the default game plan should always be roll your tier 4 units on level 8. If you giga high roll, which is like 1 out of 100 games, you can maybe straight go to 9, but that's very rare. Like that should almost never happen, especially if the lobby's like competitive, like if there's like good players in it. And after that you go 9, after you rolled your tier 4s on 8.
Like the issue with going fast 9 is usually you will still play some key tier 4 units on your board, even if you rush 9. And most carries on legendary carries are not really good enough by themselves that you can just skip these tier 4 units. So if you wait until you're level 9 and let's say 5-2 or 5-1 to start rolling for your tier 4 units, they're all out. So you kind of griefed yourself.
Yeah, whenever Fast 9 was meta, or when it was good, it was because there was like certain 5 costs that were really, really like game breaking, that were like super broken to play around, even on 1 star. And right now on this patch or this set, and even for a while now, we didn't have that. I think where like 5 costs are so game changing that it's worth to just go 9 below HP and then gamble with your like low gold roll down.
I do think there is you can do stuff with like Dragon Lord Aurelia that's not really dependent on tier 4, which works quite well. Like it caps quite high, but that comp is so expensive. It's easier. Like you probably can't even just go fast 9 because you will still be too broke to find every unit you need.
Yeah. And it's also not like when you're level 9, like you instantly are stable on the cheap board with like Aurelia 1. Like you still get destroyed by like every standard 4-cost comp. Until you find your Aurelia 2, I think. Unless all your other units are upgraded, but that's not the case usually when you go fast 9.
Also, you're looking for stuff like Azir, Rakan, right? So those are expensive.
Yeah, every legendary is 15 gold to upgrade. So even if you go 9 with like 30, 40 gold, like you can't even upgrade your units because you don't have any money.
And oftentimes, if you go fast 9, you need to do almost a full pivot of your board.
Yeah.
very rare that you play something that's almost like resembling the comp then. That's similar to that, to legendary comp.
All right, nice. All right, almost done. I maybe put a few too many questions in here. What kind of stuff would you want to see in your early game? Or what do you generally sort of see as be a successful early game? I guess this sort of more broadly would be like, are people just playing strongest board, or more sort of like just playing whatever it is they happen to hit and saving their money?
So, as I already said, the default is go 8, roll for your units. So strongest board should be your default. You can optimize for stuff. Like if you have a lose streak, play that lose streak. It's fine. If you can get a lot of money to like go 8 before other people, and then hit contested units, or just have more gold to hit these units, then that's fine as well. You can see HP as a resource in that sense, where either you will probably have to sack the HP in stage 4 when you don't hit, or you just sack it early, so it's more likely that you hit. But it's obviously a bit more risky. I personally, I think like if I don't have any specific opener where you can just commit to a direction, I'm just happy with any upgraded strong unit where I can slam 1 or 2 items on. It doesn't really matter which way how exactly your board looks. Darius, I think, is still very strong, so I like to play around that. Wardens are very strong early game, so if I get like a Mumu Ilawi box, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
And then also this story with like Zyra openers are becoming quite flexible because there are lots of different lines that are not so far away from that composition, so quite close pivots. And the board is really strong early game. I think Zyra is a good early game unit. Or good carry as well if you play Ghostly.
Anything else to add to that?
I would agree. Maybe Fated. I like Fated still a lot.
Oh yeah, Fated
as
is
an
good.
open.
Also, Fated kind of is pretty flex because it's quite easy to go into snipers. You can just itemize, then take Aphelios as your item holder. It's easy to go into the AP comp, so you can obviously play Fated from a Fated opener, but I feel like it's not that outlandish to go towards Lilia from there. Oftentimes, you will play the Ari, you will fit in the Ilawi for Arcanist, and then you just play another whatever Warden, and then you already have a good foundation for the board.
Yep. I think the board also fits the 3-cost Wardens really well, because you can fit like Arcanist units like Ilawi, Lux, and then Amumu. I think you can like utilize like most of the best early mid-game units in that comp really well, or like in that early game really well. So yeah, and like Loescher mentioned, most mid-late game transitions are very easy as well from there. So I think that's one of the better openers as well. I think Story was the probably the best opener in my opinion. And then like the Heavenly with Darius, but that's really dependent if you hit Darius too and if you find items for him, because that unit is still very, very broken. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add too much about that. I think
maybe we can kind of highlight Darius as a unit that really likes items in the early game. So if you have I don't know, item opener or whatever region encounter that gives you some more items, prioritizing Darius in stage 1 or early stage 2 can be advantageous.
Okay, nice. All right. So late game boards. What are you kind of looking out for in successful late game boards?
I think just try to optimize your board as much as possible for like whatever direction you have.
Are there any particular optimizations you can think of that would sort of stand out to you that maybe not everybody does?
The thing is, like most comps don't feel super flex. Like there are like some spots you can flex around, but it's not like you can do anything that's super big to turn around a matchup in most cases.
Yeah.
Like with Lissandra, for example, being reworked, it really is a bit. It became a bit difficult to optimize for late game matchups, I feel.
Also, you got less agency. You think?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Yeah. I think the question is also a bit weird because it's
That's
mostly
fine.
like, well, you're looking for your basically your late game board should be what's there in the meta sheet, right? Like this is the usually optimal version.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
think
meant that correctly. My questions are good.
I think an interesting point that we could talk about is that the players should like starting stage 4 after the like initial roll down when they stabilize, they should already be thinking about their win condition. And there's like usually a few paths that you can take. If your spot is really high roll and you can win with your default board, then you should think about like denying other people's win conditions, or obviously you should scout if you can go for like maybe yourself for a 4-cost 3-star. Maybe your win condition is like finding all the legendaries upgraded. Maybe your win condition is level 10 because you can fit Exalted, for example. I think there's like interesting ways to cap out your board sometimes. But yeah, like Loescher said, in general, you don't have too much like what's it called? Like leadway. Like you can't really change up too much from the meta comps. So yeah, optimizing around that, like thinking about how you can actually win the game.
I think what you said fits really well with the previous question of some stuff good or better players do than some players do better than others, or mistakes some players do, where they're not really aware of their win conditions.
Yeah.
Or they're getting aware, like they plan for their win conditions too late. So they only think about that like mid stage 5, stage 6, and at that point you can't really change anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This is like I would say it's you need to like good players are constantly aware of their spot in the lobby or their situation in the lobby.
Yeah, it's actually so funny because I think last time I talked to Counterfeit, this is exactly what I said. Like every player, like every good player has like a range where they know like this is gonna be my placement at the end of the game right now. Like I'm hovering between like second and third, or like third and fourth, like or first and second. It's like you always have that foresight really early on, and according to that you make your decisions and play the game in a way where you like play towards that.
So if we could rewind a bit, because I think it's one of the things where this is probably really obvious to you guys, but for me, I want to like make sure it's clear. So if you were saying that a player wasn't kind of aware of the win conditions and planning too late, what is it that they are not? Could you give me an example of something that they would be not doing?
So the prime example for this is when they have like a really good spot. They have a stable board, right? They are maybe level 9 already, and they are like 60 HP with a super stable board, and they keep rolling even though they're like stable, and even though they're maybe guaranteed top 2. This might be like a spot where like he's 60 HP and then the second guy is 30 HP and the third, fourth, and fifth guy are like hovering around 20. Where like the player with like the stable board and 60 HP should always now just sit on that gold and then try to play for that first place because he's guaranteed to be top 2 at least, and to go first, it's obviously much better to read your gold. And this is like the prime example that we see all the time. Players still mess up.
I would add on to that with something I saw oftentimes during Open Qualifier. Let's say you play Lilia, and you're not that contested. You're quite rich, so you can decide: do I greed a bit more, sack some HP, and then maybe have like hit like a higher cap, or do I all in now and try to save tempo? And then people don't really consider their matchups in the lobby. For example, you could see 2 people on Lee Sin, and that matchup is usually quite poor for Lilia. So you will often you will have to kind of accept that you will lose these HP if you face them, even if it's just probably just stage damage plus 1 or 2 units. But still, you have to plan for that. And then you kind of give up 1 or 2 placements by playing a bit too greedy, so you can hit a cap that doesn't really save you.
That's a really good point as well, yeah. Like, we will see this with like really good players when they see like someone hit like a Hyrule Fortune spot. They will immediately understand that they are now playing for like a second or third or fourth even, and they will like adjust their decision making according to that. They will not drop as much HP as they normally would, because they know they need the HP buffer, because they will fight the Fortune cash out eventually, and they will always lose to that guy. Like, really good players don't only assess their own spots, but also the spots of the other players, and yeah, then they will adjust.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. Cool. All right, last question. Gosh, I realize this has taken a lot longer than I was expecting to. Very briefly, is there anything that people are undervaluing right now?
Undervaluing.
Allogamous.
Yo.
Oh, Rita.
It's kind of, for me, it's kind of hard to say. Because it would be like, I think like with the patch almost being 2 weeks old by next Friday, people will know their stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, I would maybe talk about the other aspects like that are not meta, like the mental game, the positioning stuff people don't value as high maybe, and stuff like that. This is more probably something that's a lot more undervalued by players, like maybe not playing one day before, like taking a break, like stuff like that, optimizing around the fact that you need to perform on a particular day for like multiple hours. I think that's something players should be more aware of.
Making full sure you don't eat a full meal directly before the game, so you have like food coma game 2.
Yeah. It's actually real though.
No,
Maybe
I mean, like
getting enough
sometimes you
sleep.
don't have the time and it happens, right?
I mean, like managing like your like energy intake is a big thing. Or for like a long dive competition, like, it is a really big thing.
Oh,
Like stuff like planning your caffeine, for example, is also insanely big. Like,
Yep.
that is also a huge thing, because you don't want to like first things first be like straight 1 minute before a game. You don't want to just like jam the fucking jam the Red Bull. You need to space it out better.
Yeah. Or some players will always like for like 2 weeks before the tournament they will play at nighttime. They will start like playing around 12 to like 6 in the morning, and then they will have to switch up their like hours like the day before. And
So
it's
what
like
you're
always
saying
a disaster.
What you're saying is adjust your sleep schedule in time for times of a normal human being.
Yes, exactly.
But I think like that's actually something in general, because like there are some players that repeatedly struggle with this, and then they get early group and open qualifier, or they just start really early, and like, okay, this normally they would sleep at like 2 p.m. So they are probably really really unconcentrated. And that's just really unnecessary, because this like the schedule of this of the competitions is stable, right? They're always the same, the times. So if you're actually keen on like competing in these, and that's your like your main source of income in that sense as well, like adjust your sleep schedule for that, right? Like make sure if it's 4 p.m. be able to perform.
But also like
Practicing around the same time.
another thing that's also worth noting, right, is the fact that a lot of top level TFT players are just like playing too many games.
No,
Yeah, I would agree.
100%.
Like the thing is, like, you're playing too many fucking games, but you're not like studying enough, or you're like overplaying to the point where like you're training the same muscle. Like, like it's kind of the same thing as, it's not exactly the same thing as working out, but like you don't fucking work out in the gym 6 hours a day, right? Like you don't.
The thing is, you need also new perspectives in TFT. I feel like if you're doing the same mistakes over and over again, and you're not even noticing that you are doing those mistakes, I feel like it's so worthless to keep on playing. So I agree. Like watching is usually much better than playing a lot of hours.
I think it depends on the person, but just be aware that whatever method you choose to train or whatever, there will be diminishing returns the more you do that one method. So switch it up from time to time.
So you know, Wheater, this one's being recorded. We posted it on YouTube.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I very rarely say stuff that shouldn't be put into the Evo, anyways. Cack.
Cool. All right.
Can I interject a
please.
question if you're done?
Sure.
When you're like VOD reviewing your own games, what should you be looking out for? I think that's what I struggle with.
As a cat, as a player.
I would
As a
look
player.
for patterns that you do. So if there's like specific stuff you always do, and then evaluate whether or not that's actually correct or incorrect, and what it does for you. Like usually, like you I think it's like in one game, like take one game, look at it, and then you can kind of see what you did, like some stuff you did incorrect there, and if you notice that this happens repeatedly, like be aware of your mistakes and kind of watch out for those in the next games you're reviewing, because like these patterns are the hardest to get rid of, so you will need to put in the most work to actually resolve these.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
All right, cool. Let's jump onto the meta thoughts tab. I'm aware again, Loescher, I don't want to ask too much of you for today. So there's a lot of information in here, but if there's anything sort of particular stuff that you think is worth mentioning, I've tried to find as many different angles on each of these comps as I can think of, but if any of you can see anything in here which is obviously missing, then please do just sort of shout it out, and we'll jump between comps. I suppose probably, like, if anything, talking around the Ashe comp would be probably the best use of time, just because it's going to be the one that's most common.
Yeah, so I know quite a lot about Duelist, and
Yeah.
then I know some Ashe stuff. I'm just looking through, but since you used Solo's tier list as a sample, this should be quite complete. Like,
I've started using YBY1s actually instead, or like alongside it. It's just like interesting because like they like have like I think Solo has them as well, but he has like they have like tactic guides for every like comp as well in the YB1 sheet. Him and them in KBYM or whatever the name is of the other guy that he does them with.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it on Tacta. Interesting. Well, I'll add that to my list of things to consult.
wait, he has Story Champion in tier 2?
Zolo or YBY?
Solo, yeah.
I mean,
what a fool.
He does not
That does
believe in
seem
like
weird.
Story Champion is fucking broken, by the way. Like it's insane. Holy, like I already. It's insane. It's so fun to play as well.
Like I wanted to limit test it. Like I had no items, no guarants. I just clicked on it. I went like AFK 50% of the game, and I still went first. Obviously, a bad example with the low sample size, but that shit's broken.
What do you mean? Results-oriented thinking in TFT is the best thing that I've ever had. Like, you know, like stats are fake. It's all about all of it's about being results-oriented.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Loescher, if you've got like particular insights on the Duelist one, I think the most interesting thing I sort of came across in the discourse recently was the idea of Duelists for being, you know, in the matchup against Ashe, the idea that you could try and push Duelist as like the one that gets everything done very quickly, thus potentially before Ashe gets a chance to scale up. I don't know if that go to.
Now
the
you kind of want to
responses.
overwhelm your opponents. I would actually say that your Ashe matchup is not that good, but your Lilia matchup is really good.
Yeah.
Okay, what is that?
So that's the stuff. The more interesting thing is you will see people mispicking duelists a lot, like they play it from not so good spots. I think that's a bit what I talked about earlier. What duelists like and don't like. So you can refer to that. I think the interesting thing here is that while your default line is you just go for level 8, rule for Irelia, and then Lee Sin 2 as your carry. Like, so you prioritize Lee Sin. You do have options where you can carry Kiana or even Trist Volibear. I would say the best option is probably, or the most default option is level 8 Lee Sin, and then Irelia second carry. And then Kiana's probably already the second best option, and then Trist closely behind Kiana, and just don't bother too much with Volibear.
I think the thing with Tristana as well, from like where I'm standing, obviously, remember you can kind of tell me I'm an idiot afterwards, or Loescher as well, is the fact that like she uses some items that like the other duelist doesn't really use if you can't find Irelia, right? Like she uses those items instead, which is like the big thing to look out for when it comes to playing, because like duelist is like the only line that I've actually played, right? Like so, like a lot of. So like you can like jam pretty much any like ranged AD item onto Tristana, and she'll do like a good job with it, and that's a big thing.
Okay.
Also, like usually you itemize her for early game. So for, let's say, like you for tempo in the mid game, you do need a last whisper. Obviously, you wouldn't slam it if you knew you would hit Irelia and you rolled on 4-2. But you can't plan for that, so you will slam last whisper in stage 2 because it just elevates your Tristana to the next level.
I would agree. I think what's also nice about duelists is that you can opt to roll on 6. Like if you go from a lose streak, because you have like a good duelist argument for or like a good duelist spot, but you don't have like a strong opener. I think you can roll on 6 a little because you play around 2 costs and 3 costs a lot, and even 1 costs. Like upgrading all of those is quite important. I don't know how to feel about like the 3-star version of that board. I feel like you always push 8 and then roll, usually, from what I've seen.
It should be the default, but there may be spots like, let's say you have cracked Tristana items, or you're very close. I think it's more like you go 7 and then you roll for upgrades, and then you're suddenly on like 7 Kiana, and then you're like, oh fuck it, I'll just carry Kiana, and then I roll Trist on the side.
Yep, that can for sure happen. Like that spot is more so if you play it from win streak usually, right?
Yeah.
Where you go straight 7. So yeah, I think there's like a lot of different ways how to play this, but I feel like the best duelist games I've seen were always where the player pushed 8. I think like if you stuck on 7 to like stage 5 to roll for Volibear and Trist, it doesn't feel good because you're like getting shit on by every 4-cost comp in stage 4. And yeah, I think Irelia just is the biggest spike that you can find. Like if you find one Irelia, you're guaranteed to have a good game usually.
That's also why regions like Champion Conference then are insanely broken for that comp. Because you can make sure you will hit your Irelia, and you could even, in theory, then stay on level 7 and roll, because you will hit your Irelia anyways. And also, be aware that there are like augments like Young, Wild, and Free that are insanely good in 3-2 at Duelist, especially from a winning position, because it gives you priority on Irelias from carousels for the rest of the game. So that's not only the stage 4 carousel, but like going stage 5, stage 6 carousel, that you're pretty much guaranteed to hit at least 1 or 2 Irelias from that alone. And upgrading Irelia, because you're stuck on 8 most of the time, is really key. And then also legendaries like Rakan or Wukong are like really important to cap your board in the late
especially
game.
Wukong. I think Wukong is so broken in that comp because you get Heavenly and Sage. You get AD and attack speed, like you activate Heavenly, which is like insane. I feel like Wukong is like the second best by far, and then like Rakan is nice to have as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I often see now, I think in the stats, if you're looking for caps on 9 with Duelist +1, it's actually better to go 4 Dragon Lord 6 Duelist rather than 8 Duelist, because the Yasuo and the Darius don't really do that much, so you can cut those.
It's like max cap though, like
that's max cap, and then I think you replace them with the upgraded Dragon Lord units. So let's say you have the Wukong 2, the Rakan 2, the Diana 2.
That makes sense. Yeah, because the upgrade from 6 to 8 is still... Because, yeah, the damage reduction kicks in at 6, and at 8 it's just a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. Yeah, anything like that for any of the other compositions?
I think I used up all my good examples for the compositions earlier. For most of them.
Unlucky Loescher.
I think we have Kai'Sa in like tier 2. I think Kai'Sa could be a bit more interesting. Just because it's still like the best comp to play out of Fortune. I think you don't have that mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
It's super uncontested. Like no one plays this, I feel like.
Yep.
And it kinda caps high if you get to level 9 and just play 2 trick shot. You have like a quite high cap because you can just fit 4 Dragon Lord, which is like the best late game trade. And since it's uncontested, you have always focus trees out. So yeah. If you have like a good fortune spot, I think that's like still the default line.
How dominant do you think we'll see Fortune be this weekend?
Not that much. I think only players like you will only see this probably be played if they hit it early on or if they have no board in stage 3. Like if you're already going into stage 3 with like no units and you know you're gonna be weak, then you might as well play it. But it won't be like last time around where it's like super oppressive.
Yeah, but some players are gambling addicts. They will play it.
I mean, YLCO didn't qualify CAC, right? So yeah.
Yeah, Elia didn't qualify either. So
As much. Did Elia actually try this time around? He was very.
he got day 1 in OQ.
Oh,
Yeah.
because he was
He
very
also pitched
down
that.
after. He was very down after first GC.
Yeah, the thing is, after the last OQ, he straight up says he retires again, and this time he didn't write anything. So I'm not sure if it's better or worse.
It means he is retired.
Yeah, like for this set, pretty sure. Yeah.
It makes sense, right? If you don't make it to the tournament, you just quit until the next tournament. There's no point in playing Nether.
Like also like he straight up missed 2 GSCs now, so like in terms of points and everything, it's like almost impossible.
Isn't he also writing his masters right now? Well, like,
bachelor's, but he starts soon. Yeah.
All right, let's. Sorry, please have this conversation. After, so just want to bear in mind.
This you can cut it out. It's fine. Sorry.
I am not doing editing. This is what I'm saying. I'm not going to do editing.
Okay.
So keep on. Please keep on topic for at least the time being. Again, I love any kind of insights if you guys have for any of these compositions, just in terms of sort of talking points around them. You know, where they might fall down, or like particular aspects of the composition that you think are more important than people would necessarily realize, that kind of stuff.
I guess for Ash, he kind of implies it by writing it there with 4 sniper. So you always want to play 4 sniper. Your default composition will be 4-4, so 4 warden, 4 sniper. But your front line is flex. Your back line is not flex. You can frontline anything, and there are some interesting variations with like Udyr. Like sometimes you play like Udyr Jax because there's a broken ink shadow or something that's really good for you. And you're missing an item, a carry item or frontline item.
Yeah. I mean, you can even hold like Galio and Silas and just play those 2. Like if you hit those upgraded, like it's not even that bad. You can sometimes play Ghostly with Aatrox. Like there's a lot of different variations of that front line. That's true. And you just play around the 4 sniper core as your backline. I think it's quite like Kai'Sa Trickshot was in last GC, where you always held Ornn as well. Like if you've upgraded Ornn, you would just not play 4 bruisers. You would just play 2 bruisers and then just fit like other 2 frontline units. I think the set is just designed in that way, where you can just flex around the front line, because you don't really need any traits in particular from the frontline units for your backline. So I think that's quite flex. Oh, I have an interesting question for Loescher for like one of those comps. How do you feel about like the EP flex comps? I mean, we have Lilia listed on top in tier 1, but do you feel like once you hit like Syndra 2 or like Morgana 2, you would itemize those over Lilia? And like, because the boards are kind of similar, right?
The boards are kind of similar. I do think like you can play Syndra, but she kind of wants like you want at least probably 5 fated at least. I don't think you necessarily have to play this dried version now, but with spatulas you can still do that. And then, like putting your Lilia items onto Morgana just feels bad to me because this, like the Morgana unit, she does a lot of damage, but she doesn't kill anything. And you want to kill units, so that's kind of the important part. So like the Morgana, if you have like statics, Morelos, like which can also go to Lilia, sure, move it to Morgana. Maybe like also your Trojan or whatever. But if I have stuff like Rabadon's Archangel, I would probably not move it to Morgana and just still carry 3 items Lilia 1.
Okay.
But I have to admit, with that comp, I'm not like especially Lilia has so many variations, I feel, that I can't really say I know like for every situation the optimal procedure.
It's probably more case by case, right?
Yeah, probably.
What do you feel about like Wei? Because we've seen some vertical mythic now.
Yeah,
Again.
good unit.
Would you itemize him over Lilia ever?
The thing is like Lilia is just, I think she's like, if you have Lilia 2, she's too good.
If you have Wei 2 and Lilia 2?
Yeah, the thing is like what the Lilia 2 will do is she will actually, if you with some luck and some decent positioning, she will kill the enemy backline carry, and Wei won't do that.
Yep.
And since like with Lilia you can oftentimes kill an Ashe, especially if the Ashe doesn't have Gunblade. So just for that, I think Lilia has the edge for me.
Okay, I can see that. Because that's how I felt about Wei as well. Like, he's really good. I feel like he's like good with Shift Morello, like
He's
same as Morgana.
He's
Morgana
like
2.0.
better Morgana.
Yeah. I agree.
Do you guys think that is Lilia enough of a thing post nerf to mean that sustain items for backliners is pushed up the priority list significantly?
Yep. If you have a lot of Lilia matchups, especially during stage 4 when there will be a lot of Lilia 1s hopping around, you do want Gunblade on your Ashe. It's quite good. Also on Syndra now, I think there is some merit in pursuing a Gunblade because you will bind, you won't bind Set usually. You will go for Ari and then Syndra, so you kind of have your damage there. So it's fine to go for Gunblade then. Like with the fated bindings, you can kind of move stuff around a bit now, depending on your itemization.
Okay, cool. Anything else which you guys want to get in before we wrap things up?
No. Don't have anything.
Oh, one thing, like it's in tier 3 here, Kog'Maw. for the love or for the sake of everything, I can't figure out when and how this comp works. Like for me, it's like a 4th or 8th composition. You will never win.
Yeah, like you care about a third.
You kind of go for it, and then you go for it, and you kind of have to commit to one, and then there's like one thing went wrong here on the road, and now you're just dead. Like you hit like all your 3-star stage 3. Too bad, no items for you. You still lose.
Actually, I've played a bunch of Kog'Maw. I feel like what's big for this comp is the Lilia 2. But it's so hard now because Lilia's an actual unit now.
This is my problem. Like the comp is the comp is I just play Lilia, but I handicap myself because I have to roll for Cho'Gath Kog'Maw beforehand.
Yeah. It's like if you have no opener, you play Lustrik anyway. You hold all the Kog'Maws, all the mythic units, and like if you have if you get tempo out of it, then you do it. But I don't think it's like a comp where you feel like really good about it when you play it, because there's like so much shit that can go wrong, like argument and counter wise. And obviously, since Lily has now very contested, it's super hard to find her if you're like behind in gold and XP.
So from what I understand is like you need you need a lot of gold early. So you need like something that gives you gold early, so you have enough gold to actually finish your rolldown and hit.
Like at what cost, that augment, right? Like when you lose,
Yeah.
you get 2 gold for it. Like that
Yeah,
augment's
exactly.
pretty good.
Stuff like that. Then you also need to make sure you need more items, because you will need 3 items, Cho'Gath and Kog'Maw, very soon. Otherwise, it's not good.
Yeah.
And then you also like need to watch out for everything else that's going on, right? I mean, you can use spots and everything. So I feel like stuff like loot subscription, for example, can oftentimes be quite decent. Or specific then augments that prismatic ticket, right? At what cost? Too much candy. But still, stuff can go wrong then. And I don't know. I'm just like, I was like, okay, this is a good spot. I'll try it out. And every time I try it out, I go 8th. I hate this comp. So you will see me playing it game 2, day 1.
Oh no! I'll be like,
Oh, no.
you
I already know.
promised us. You promised us you wouldn't. Well, I guess you actually haven't done that, but still, it's an implied
Well,
promise.
There's also like when you hit a mythic emblem on a dummy, then you can just get the mythic on 9, which is kind of broken. And,
Yeah,
like,
it's
you
the
hope
7
that you hit
fortune
in
thingy, right? Where you
yeah,
just
but
need level 9.
yeah, because you do want to lose streak early on, so you have chance of spat, and then you obviously want enough money to go to 9 and find your way. But yeah, I mean that's so conditional as well. Like having a mythic spat on a dummy is not happening a lot of times. But if it does happen, it's really easy to go 10 mythic.
But then, do you really need to roll Kog'Maw Cho'Gath, or can you just play strongest board and push levels? So
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
do need the second spat as well, right?
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
issue. So you
But
do
still,
want a
you
second.
sack stage 2 and then
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
All right.
I think it's like a beat here comp, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on and chatting. I will post your tweeters onto the server for anybody who. Oh, they just put out the post about the broadcast for GSC2. I was wondering why there's loads of tags. Loescher, you're in a Loescher. Oh wait, what's your Twitter?
Loescher
Uh,
thing, I know.
Yes.
Loescher Dinger.
I DM it.
Oh yeah.
But I never use it anywhere, so it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Streamer that doesn't use Twitter actually hates
No.
money.
I can't with that platform. I don't know. Like I tried to use it, but every time I use it, it's just full of like placement ads and posts that clearly have no business being in my feed, and it's horrible usability if you are not constantly logged in. I hate everything about it, so I can't. I tried, I can't.
Yeah, understandable, respectable. Not gonna lie.
Okay. And Memo, I always find it really difficult to find your stuff on Twitter as well.
I can send you mine as well.
Oh, that's right. So your Twitch
it's
is
for
different than
us.
your Twitter, conveniently.
Yeah. Very convenient, right?
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
let me
I've
find.
posted it in the server. Who knows? You know, it always helps, and I'll put them up on the screen as well, just for sake of it. Oops, that did not fit well. And Luscious as well. All right. Well, thank you guys. That's definitely helped with trying to get my head around things a little bit, and also just check the work. But yeah, cheers very much, and I'll catch you guys down the line.
Yep. Thanks for the invite.
Yep.